Did you know that Paul Pogba was once considered the most talented young player in European football? The Frenchman might not seem so special anymore. However, once upon a time, he had all the makings of a legend. It's no longer news that Pogba will not be playing professional football for the next 4 years. As much as some folks are not shocked, Pogba's unexpected exit from football brings many questions in mind, and several football fans are wondering how things turn out to be this bad. Well, in this video, we will take a look at Pogba's football career, how he went from a young player to a superstar, and how he ended up being banned. Just about 8 years ago, Pogba was the most expensive player in history after he put pen to paper for Manchester United. He was tipped to carry the team on his young shoulders and to become the leader of the new Manchester United. Even Marino had faith in him. And if you have any idea what kind of manager Marino is, then you might understand how important Pogba seemed. The football world might be sad that Pogba will no longer be seen on the big screens. But before he got banned, he had faced a major decline. In a first season at Juventus, all he could do was play 10 games, providing 1 assist. What does the football community think of Pogba? Right now, the football community knows Pogba as a player who never lived up to expectations. If you have no idea what his days as a young player were, you might assume the football world asked for too much. But the truth is, no one asked Pogba for something he couldn't offer. Before coming to the limelight, Pogba was a champion at the youth level. He was the captain of under-13 side he played for. This is perhaps not much of a big deal considering the fact that many people do well at the youth level but fail to make a mark professionally. Interestingly, Paul wasn't with the under-13s for a long time. He went on to play for the under-16s and even captained this team. Around age 16, Pogba already had a reputation as one of the best 16-year-old footballers in Europe, and the biggest clubs all over Europe were keen on signing him. He had several options and decided to pull pen to paper for United. Life in United. Paul was now at the biggest club in England, and United felt they had a rare gem in their hands. Of course, Paul Pogba was a gem. However, he didn't shine in the hands of United. We will get to this in a moment. But you see, Pogba played a fast one at his childhood club before joining United. He left without their permission, and they didn't even know he had moved on. United are a big club, so the 2018 World Cup winners' childhood team couldn't fight them. However, they could pull out an official statement, and that was exactly what they did. Paul was called out. Well, United too were not spared, as reports had it that Pogba was able to sign secretly because his parents had been paid. Le Havre could have ended with just complaining, but that wasn't all they did. They went on to report to FIFA. United went through a bit of trouble, but in the end, they were fine. Pogba was now legally a Red Devil. United fought because they thought Pogba was worth it, and that's why you should like and share this video if you are new here. Also, kindly subscribe to this channel to avoid missing our other videos. It is easy to say that Pogba caused United a lot of trouble. Well, this trouble was worth it, as he brought a lot of value to the United youth team. As the talented player that he was, Pogba didn't have to train with the youth team for so long before getting the invite to train with the senior team. A year after he began training with the first team, Pogba made his debut in the League Cup. Life was good for him at United, and after a while, he needed to renew his contract. Leaving Manchester United, Pogba wanted to make it to the top, and he knew that the only way he could do this was to play regularly. He liked life at United. However, he would have to wait for Paul Scholes to retire before getting a permanent role in the Manchester United midfield. Well, Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't willing to give him the assurance he needed, so he chose to leave. Paul Pogba was off to Italy. He had signed for the Old Ladies. This was perhaps the best moment of his life. However, Alex Ferguson was disappointed in him. Manchester United was a big club, and Ferguson felt it was a privilege for Pogba to sit on the bench. He didn't stop at that. Ferguson made it clear that Pogba left without telling anyone, which was equal to not showing respect. Now, it's interesting, as that was how he arrived at Old Trafford. But it was too late now. Pogba was off to a new life. Not many people know how amazing Pogba was. This is because the version of him they know is the one that was a disappointment at United. But the fact is, when Paul first came to Turin, watching him play was great. Also, he was one of the most liked youngsters of his time, and Champions League fans looked forward to seeing him on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Pogba was unveiled as a Serie A player, and his debut will never be forgotten. He didn't start from the bench. That's not all. He had a full 90 minutes to himself on his debut. Pogba's move to Juventus didn't go down well with the Manchester United hierarchy. However, it was a good one for him. Beyond getting to play frequently, he got called up to the French under-20 side, which he captained to their first World Cup trophy. In addition to winning this tournament, he was also named the player of the tournament. Pogba was in red-hot form, and Juventus benefited immensely in the 2013-14 season. In this season, with 16 assists and 9 goals, he had 25 goal contributions. What's more, he almost played the entire season. He never got injured. However, he had to sit on the bench for one game because he got suspended. The 2014 World Cup. Thinking of the fact that Pogba went an entire season without being injured seems so bizarre right now. However, as a youngster, that was his reality. Pogba seemed to be at the top of his game already, but he was just getting started. After an amazing season, he got invited to the French national team and was on his way to the 2014 World Cup, hosted in Brazil. Before the World Cup, it was obvious how talented Pogba was. However, the world was yet to see him in his glory. The World Cup was an opportunity for Pogba to display what he could do to everyone who followed football. He played in 5 games, starting 4 of them. This probably wasn't a big deal for established stars. However, for Pogba, it was a big deal. Beyond the massive achievement, he also got recognized as the young player of the tournament. Pogba's performance, both at Juventus and at the World Cup, wasn't something no one had done before. But what made it such a big deal was that he hadn't even celebrated his 22nd birthday. Injury-prone player. Pogba's arrival on the scene was so sudden that most people didn't notice his bad side. You see, just before his ban, there were issues with his fitness, and it is easy to believe these issues are new. Sadly, they had always been a part of his career. Pogba's fitness problem is not something new. Most people just couldn't notice how injury-prone he could get. The 2014-15 season was a great one for Pogba. Although he was able to make 21 goal contributions, he wasn't as available as he was in the previous season. He had to stay away from action for 2 months, missing 10 matches in the process. He had to sit on the sidelines because of an injured hamstring. Players get injured, so no one paid a lot of attention to this injury. Sadly, it was the beginning of the end of his career. Pogba's injury kept him out of the Champions League for a while. However, he returned just in time to help Juventus go to the final, which they lost to Barcelona. At this point, Paul had grown into the mature and established player. Also, he switched to the number 10 jersey, which was previously worn by Italian legend Del Piero. The switch to the number 10 jersey perhaps didn't seem like a lot. However, it simply signifies Juventus' trust in Pogba's ability to man their midfield. And he surely did not disappoint. In the absence of Del Piero and Pirlo, Pogba brought a lot of balance to the Juve midfield and made 23 goal contributions. Although he didn't feature in every game, he was out for just 2 games. The move back to Old Trafford. Pogba had grown into one of the biggest midfielders in Europe, and United were looking to have him back. There were lots of suitors for him. United were aware of this and didn't mind going the extra mile to get him. They paid £105 million for him, making him the most expensive player at the time. Paul put pen to paper for Manchester United, and this was the beginning of his second stint with the club. Unfortunately, United actually didn't do their due diligence properly before buying Paul. If they had, they would have noticed he was already experiencing a slight decline in form. Paul had just returned from Euro 2016 and did not exactly impress. As a matter of fact, his performance at the Euro was his worst since gaining prominence. He gave away a cheap penalty in the round of 16 match between France and Ireland. Although this tournament was the only one Paul hadn't lived up to expectations in, it attracted a great deal of criticism. Just a few months before the Euro, Pogba was considered a world-class talent. However, with his performance at the Euro and with the rumors surrounding his move to United, some pundits wasted no time in calling him a waste of funds. With the Euro over, the football world's opinion of Pogba was divided. Some still had faith in him. However, others believed his move to United was a waste of funds. Of course, no one could call him a bad player, but he was probably overpriced. Right now, it might be easy to say Pogba flopped in his second stint at United. However, looking back, it appears he was playing out of position at United. With Marino, it appears Pogba played more as a holding midfielder. So, he clearly wasn't the creative player he was at Juventus. He was more pragmatic, slower, a lot less deadly, and seemed comfortable passing the ball from side to side in the midfield. The version of Pogba at United didn't seem so talented. However, matches that saw him play not so deep were better. As he excelled effortlessly, we might never understand why Pogba was played so deep. However, his big build was perhaps the reason. You see, Paul never had a bad season at Juventus, not even when he was injured. Sadly, the same didn't happen at Manchester United. In his first 51 games, he had just 6 goals and 9 assists. He used to enjoy double numbers. Well, this time, he was back to singles. This was a problem, but it wasn't his only problem. His hamstring injury was back, and it made him miss 14 games. Looking at the numbers alone could make it seem like Paul Pobga was absolutely bad. But that wasn't the case. He had done quite well, but the forwards were just not getting the goals. Although he had suffered a decline, he was still very creative. Although worth mentioning is the fact that in the debut season of his second stint at United, Pogba did the woodwork 9 times. As much as these misses will never be goals, they could have found a way to get into the back of the net. So, putting these misses alongside the wasteful nature of some United forwards, Pogba would have had much better numbers. Although, there are no arguments about Pogba not living up to expectations in the debut season of his second stint at United. He still showed how much he could offer. The world was very strongly against Pogba. However, Marino was different. He described Pogba as a genius and even declared it was a matter of time before the amount he was bought for would start looking too cheap. He didn't stop at that. He even went on to say Pogba could end up as team captain at United. Second season in his second stint. The new season had started, and Pogba had a great start. Marino and United fans were looking forward to a great season. But this wasn't meant to be. You see, Pogba was willing to give his best. However, it appeared his body was beginning to slow down. He was down with a hamstring injury again, and this could easily be called the beginning of the end. No one blamed Pogba for getting injured. Everyone gets injured every now and then. So obviously, it wasn't his fault. But this injury was the reason he had a clash with Marino. Paul Pogba was recovering and Marino expected him to remain with the squad. Sadly, that wasn't what he did. He went out of England and all the way to Miami to recover. Over the months, the relationship between Pogba and Marino deteriorated. And by 2018, they were no longer speaking to each other. Everyone blamed Pogba, but he was going to show the world he had a lot to offer, whether they believed it or not. The 2018 World Cup. It was 2018, and Pogba already had lots of haters. No one really expected him to make a mark at the World Cup. Well, he went on to win the World Cup, proving doubters wrong in the process. After the World Cup, Jose came out to say he had no issues with what Pogba could do, but with this lack of focus, according to Jose, the World Cup lasted just a month, and Pogba had to stay in camp with his colleagues, so he just couldn't get distracted. Back to United. The World Cup was a healing process for Jose and Paul. Their relationship had gotten better, and Pogba was back to form. That season, he was able to score 11 goals and provide 16 assists. It was clear that Pogba had improved. But whatever he had going didn't last long before things went back to what they used to be. Marino and Pogba were back to fighting. Things were so bad that he lost his place in the starting 11. With Pogba out of the form and out of the first team, United were having a bad season, and this cost Marino his job. He was replaced by Ole Gunnar, and Pogba, as well as the rest of the United team, improved. In Ula's first month in charge, Pogba had 3 assists and scored 4 goals. Pogba soon grew tired of United and was looking to leave. Well, he didn't leave immediately. He stayed with the team for a couple of seasons and was so inconsistent. United soon got tired of giving him several chances, and with time, he lost his star man status at the club of Bruno Fernandes. From this point, things went downhill, and there was just so much Pogba could take. It soon became obvious that United didn't want him, so he went back to Juve. Returned to Turin. Pogba was bought for a lot of money. However, he left for free, just like he did the last time. He was one of the highest paid players in England. However, with his departure from England, he took a huge pay cut. This could have been a challenge, but it was okay, as he was interested in a fresh start. So if heading back to Italy was going to give him something new, he didn't mind a pay cut. It was common knowledge in the football world that Pogba was prone to injuries, and it was going to be a problem. The World Cup winner had only played for 15 days before getting injured. With this, he stayed off action for 2 months. Juventus were not the only ones affected. France was also affected, as he couldn't make it to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. After a long time off the pitch, the 2018 World Cup winner was starting to get better, so Juventus were looking forward to having him back. Sadly, he didn't come back as planned, as he had a clash with Allegri, who didn't hesitate to suspend him. Allegri was trying to discipline Pogba, and as much as this was a good move, it affected the entire team. The reason was obvious. He brought a lot of value to the team. Pogba was fit to head back to the pitch, but it was only a short while before he got injured again. This time, he had to sit on the sidelines for 3 weeks. 3 weeks seemed short, and Pogba was fit to play again. Also, it seemed things between him and Allegri were settled. You see, Pogba was already reputable for being inconsistent, and the other thing he did consistently was get injured. So he got injured again, and this time it was over for the rest of the season. Between the day Paul Pogba signed for Juventus and the end of October, he played for only 161 minutes. Paul's biggest nightmare was his regular injuries, and it didn't seem like things could get worse. But he obviously had no idea what was coming. Getting tested. Pogba was already out of the season when he had to take part in a random drug test. He was tested for testosterone B, and sadly, he failed this test. He was already 30 years old, and he didn't have a lot of years to play, so failing a drug test that could lead to him getting banned was almost like him getting retired before his body got tired. If any player has had to endure a roller coaster ride as a footballer, Paul Pogba is that player. Things were already bad for him. His career was already on the line because of injuries, but he had a fighting chance. However, the fact that he tested positive for testosterone B meant he was done with football. He made it clear that he took this drug accidentally. However, he couldn't prove it. If he had been able to prove taking this drug by accident, he would have faced a 2-year ban. However, since he couldn't prove it, he will be out of football for 4 years. Speaking about this ban, Pogba said, "I have today been informed of the Tribunal Nacional Anti-Doping's decision and believe that the verdict is incorrect. I am sad, shocked, and heartbroken that everything I have built in my professional playing career has been taken away from me. When I am free of legal restrictions, the full story will become clear. But I have never knowingly or deliberately taken any supplements that violate anti-doping regulations. As a professional athlete, I would never do anything to enhance my performance by using banned substances, and have never disrespected or cheated fellow athletes and supporters of any of the teams I have played for or against. As a consequence of the decision announced today, I will appeal this before the Court of Arbitration for Sport." What does Pogba think of this ban? Pogba doesn't think this ban is fair and will be appealing, but it doesn't seem like this ban came as a shock. Last year, a tribunal of Italy's anti-doping organization suspended him, so it was almost certain he would eventually get banned. Juventus are aware of this development. However, they are yet to put out a statement. As much as football fans from all over the world expect them to say something about this ban, it is unlikely they will be speaking. Paul was supposed to remain a Juve player until 2026. However, right now, it might be difficult to call him a Juve star. This is because the next time he will play football is in August 2027. He will be 34 at the time and might as well never come back. Lots of football players are retired at this age, and even those who aren't retired do not play at the highest level. That's not all. Pogba doesn't have a reputation for being disciplined, so the likelihood of him being fit at 34 is very slim. Does Pogba have any options? Right now, it seems like it is all over for Paul Pogba, but it isn't exactly over. He could experience a major shift if he is lucky. This might be difficult to believe. However, he has the alternate of appealing to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. In the last couple of years, some athletes have headed to the CAS when some sports-related judgments did not suit them. Pogba doesn't believe the judgment he got was fair. He might be the only one who believes this apart from those on his team. Nonetheless, whether CAS believes his innocence or not, they will go through his case. This way, they will find out if he really deserves to be banned. If the Court of Arbitration Sport believes Pogba is innocent, this struggle will take a new turn. So, he will not be getting off the hook so easily, as the World Anti-Doping Agency can also appeal. The Court of Arbitration Sport is definitely a powerful court, but things might go beyond the court if the World Anti-Doping Agency is unsatisfied. The case might end up in the Swiss Federal Courts. The case will be over if the Court of Arbitration Sport agrees with the World Anti-Doping Agency, and Pogba might never play professional football. On the other hand, if they agree with Pogba, then the fight is still taking baby steps. Does Pogba have to get banned for 4 years? Well, the fact is, Pogba really didn't have to face the full wrath of the law. He could have taken a plea deal, but he didn't give this any thought. It is easy to blame him for this, but taking a plea deal will be equal to admitting he took a banned substance on purpose. The world might be against Pogba, but not everyone is. Former Juve player De Livio thinks the ban is too harsh as Pogba was naive. He said, "It was naive. A player of that level must always know what he eats or what he drinks. Given this, the 4-year disqualification is too long. In fact, it prevents him from continuing to play football." At this point, Pogba will have to count his gains and losses and move on. This is definitely a moment he didn't see coming. However, he is still a free man. Sadly, Brazil's Dani Alves can't say the same.